I'm Dave. This is the Dirt Bike Dave channel, and this video is going to be about the survey that I sent out in my Kayo EFI and Kayo K6-R Facebook group. So I put out 11 questions and I got back the answers, and I'm going to read them off, question followed by the answers that I got, just to kind of make it a little bit quicker. So, number one, why did you buy the K6, K6-R and K6 EFI? The majority of the answers were cost. The cost is $5,000, a little bit more for the EFI version, and some of the people who responded to me said the reason why they did that and thought about it was the Japanese and Austrian counterparts offerings have gotten out of hand. The price has gotten out of hand. They're more than what they offer, more than what the average Joe even needs, is some of the response that I got back. So, for example, a gentleman bought one, and he recently came off a YZ250, and you know what he paid for that versus this was so much more, and what the bike offered him was more than what he needed. He didn't need all the technology, to quote him. He's like, I didn't need the high-end suspension. I didn't need the high-end EFI tuner that came with it. The power was too much. So he sent that one back, traded it in, got a Kayo. Another gentleman said that he could buy two for the price of one. So in that scenario, he bought one for his son and himself so that they could ride together, which I thought was really cool, and something I never really thought would be the reason why someone would do that. But yeah, you could get, with the cost of these things, you can get two for the price of one Austrian bike. With the KTM being around 11, and these going for 5, of course you pay your taxes and your destination, your setup, all that, but maybe you're 55 or 58 out the door for a brand new bike. Okay, so the second question I asked was, how has it been to own? The majority of people came back with no problem or great value, and almost to a T, the response of the build quality was better than they anticipated. So I'm really happy about that. These Kayos, definitely good bikes. So separate, number 3, I addressed build quality and asked them their thoughts on the build quality. And like I said, most people responded straight out that it was better than they anticipated. So number 4, was there any negatives or annoying issues that you've had since you got the bike? The major answer I got back was weepy. I'm going to call weepy, not leaky. Weeping fork seals. It seems to be something that more than one person has had. I'm not quite sure why that is. I don't believe it's a build quality issue. I believe it's more of a maintenance issue. Obviously sand and clay and mud can be abrasive if you don't clean it off. So if you leave that on your forks and shock shaft, and it hardens, it can you can end up with weeping fork seals. I made a video about it. You can get a Risk fork seal doctor. Go in there and clean that out, and it will help your forks. Everyone who's tried it so far has reported back to me that fixed their issues. So I'm not sure that it's necessarily a problem with the factory fork seals. But, it could be. Keep an eye on that. That's something to keep an eye on. You do have a warranty with these bikes. I believe it's 3 months. So, number 5. Anything you would improve with the bike, even if you had to pay more to get improvements. So the biggest answer to that one was weight. This bike, for me, I have the motocross version. It did come with a headlight and a brake light, a tail section light. I took those off and I threw it up on the scales and got 244 for the weight. I don't think that's that bad. It's about 8 or 10 pounds more than basically the lightest 250 that the import guys have. But I mean, 10 pounds. Is it that much really? When you're talking about the average Joe, I'm not talking about the guy obviously racing for a title or something, but for an average, weekend warrior, it's the same as, it's very similar to a 450, if you want to put it that way. I mean, was a 450 necessarily too heavy? People don't seem to think so. So I know you can get into power weight, but let's not go down that rabbit hole. So that was number 5. Number 6. So I asked them about the aftermarket and had they changed out anything. The biggest response I got back for that was skid plates. And a lot of people felt like it should come with a skid plate right off the bat. Especially the EFI version, because, that's a trail, dirt bike, off-road bike, however you want to explain it. Yeah, a lot of people felt it should have that. Some of the bikes come with hand guards, and a lot of people have replaced them with those brush guards, with the metal ones. The off-road riders do that. And a lot of people just complain just in general that the factory hand guards were not that good. I've replaced mine. I got a Cherubies, and I'm not really fond of these Cherubies, the version that I have, but I will be replacing them. You can get the aftermarket supports stuff like this. You can get grips, you can get handlebars, you can get skid plates, you can get hand guards. I said that, sorry. Seat covers, plastics. Someone said that you can make a KTM silencer fit. I haven't tried that. I don't know that to be true, but there is that rumor out there. Tires you can get tires. I don't know, just basically anything you can buy for another bike in the aftermarket. You just won't find it by looking up Kayo. All right, anyways, so moving on. Number 7, is the power and suspension good enough, was a question I asked. To a T, everyone responded that it was. I didn't have anybody saying that it was not good, the quality and the build quality from stock. I did get some responses back about size and weight, which that's, even if you were buying a Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, Kawasaki, KTM, the Japanese basically build off-road and dirt bikes, motocross bikes, with someone, I think they start around 165, 175 pound range for 250s. So, not calling anybody out, not saying, size and weight is different for everybody. But I will say that if you're above like 180, you're definitely you're going to be looking for springs. I would suggest you start looking at springs. I have been told that they can be found, and that Race Tech was one of the places that some people got some springs. Don't know, don't hold me to that either. All this stuff is not, I talk to people on the internet, but I don't see them face to face a lot. So I can't, I'll call it rumor. Question number 8 was, what do you think of the styling? To a T, everyone came back and said it was current and up-to-date styling, and also they commented on the ergonomics of it. Everybody likes that it has the straight across seat. A little bit tall was what a couple people had said, but I think that you would find that to be the case of all the other manufacturers too. I mean, because the seat height is very similar to everybody else. Question number 9, do you race? I only got 2 responses back of people who race. They do off-road racing, and as far as results go, they didn't share like results. I know one of the guys tried to race a desert race, and he came up with an electrical problem, but I want to say that was tied to the fact that he had to put on lights and instrument kind of things that he needed for that type of race. So he was already tearing down the bike and messing around with electronics. And I think something that he did caused that problem, or that his mechanics did. Number 10, the question I asked was your age. So I was surprised at this one. The age variance that I got was from 35 all the way to 59. No one was below 35 that answered that question to me. I'm not saying that people haven't bought them, but the people that did respond, no one was beyond lower than 35, and the highest age I got was 59. So I'm 56. I just recently turned over in January 13, and I race moto. Well, I don't race, sorry. I ride moto, and occasionally I do some trails. I think 2022 is going to have me do a little bit more trail riding. Not because I have any kind of problems with moto. I think that I feel when I go to the track, it seems like I'm only getting 3 or 4 opportunities to ride about 15 minutes at a time, because the sport is growing and more people are showing up, so they're breaking up the classes, and I don't get as many opportunities to ride as I would like. So jet off into the trails and maybe get another whole hour of riding that I wasn't getting just on the motocross tracks. So I think 2022 is going to see me do a lot more of that. And number 11, question number 11, final question. Would you buy again? And to a man, to a T, everybody said they would buy again. So I want to say that I believe that that's good advertising or a good response from people. They're not regretting their purchase. And I believe that this bike is worth it. This bike is definitely the best China bike available. I know some people will disagree with me there as far as off-road. I'll say where I get a hiccup with that is the GPX people will chime in. They've got a very loyal group because they get very good support from one of their owners. And that's great. I have no problem with that. I think that's really good. But you're comparing apples and oranges. Those bikes are off-road bikes for trails and single track and out in the desert. This particular bike, the K6-R, not the EFI, I've said it a bazillion times, those are totally different bikes between the two. The R is a specific motocross model. Can you do other stuff with it? Yes. Do I recommend other people to buy this one instead of buying the EFI? I do. And I'm going to go back to one of the problems that, negatives that I found, I forgot to mention it, was clogged fuel filters on the EFI. So the EFI version comes with a fuel filter in the tank, and I'm sure it has an inline filter too, but sometimes the fuel sits and it gets this black sludgy kind of stuff in the fuel filter and in the screen, and causes problems. You don't get peak performance that way, and sometimes it even clogs the fuel injector. So I'm gonna tell anybody who will listen, if you buy the EFI version, when you're doing your setup, the first time you get it, not the first time you're really starting to work on it, I would clean that off right away. I would take it out of the tank, clean it up with some contact cleaner, get it all cleaned up, make sure you have none of this black sludge on there. And I'd keep an eye on my injector, because you have a warranty, and some people have had the injector replaced. It's one of the reasons why I don't necessarily recommend that bike. I'm a carb guy. Unless you're doing elevation change. Elevation change is the big reason why I would say for somebody to get an EFI version, because it automatically, electronically controls the fuel output per the elevation. But if you're riding in pretty much the same elevation, I'd say get the carb model, because it does everything better than the EFI does. The EFI, if you wanted to go jump on a motocross track, you've got better suspension components, stiffer springs, and you don't have the issues of the EFI. So But that concludes the survey answers. I'll catch you next time. Peace out.